Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a vlog. I feel a little worn down, to be honest. I've been dealing with a lot health-wise, has been quite a struggle, but I actually like vlogging a lot, and I am choosing to try to make myself feel better and be happy, even though things are tough. I'm actually doing something I've never done before, and that is giving a book a second chance. Let me bring you on a journey. Back in 2018, end of 2017, beginning of 2018, everyone on the book internet was talking about a book. So I decided to pick it up, and for me, it was a really strange combination of things. I loved half of the book and absolutely hated the other half of the book. So to me, the half that I liked was 5-star worthy, and the half that I hated was 1-star worthy. That's how disparate the two halves of the book were for me. And I gave this book ultimately a 2-star rating. And that seems pretty harsh. And people over the years now have been recommending this entire series as a whole. And of course, the book I'm talking about is The City of Brass by S.H. Harper. This is a fantasy story about Nahari, who is kind of a thief. She's kind of a swindler, and so she's performing on the streets of Cairo to try to make money, and she ends up accidentally summoning a jinn for real and gets swept away into the jinn world. Now that's part of the story. Half of this book is told from Nahari's point of view, and half of this book is told from a character named Ali. Now Ali is my favorite, he's one of my favorite characters of all time for a book that I didn't like. His point of view, he is from the jinn city, the magical city, and he is dealing with a lot of political strife and upheaval and religious tensions happening in the city. So we're following Nahari as she's traveling with the jinn to the jinn city and Ali's aid. Like I said, Ali's point of view and his story was so spot on perfect for me because I love political fantasy so much. I loved the world that was created with the jinn city, loved everything about it. I hated the romance that happens between Nahari and the jinn she summons. The jinn is such a whiny little brat that the fact that Nahari falls in love with the jinn is a travesty, in my opinion. Now, the reason I'm interested in trying again is because people recommend the trilogy as a whole quite a bit, and I feel like I was maybe a little extra harsh in my 2-star rating, first of all. And I also heard a little tidbit, which may be a spoiler for the series, but I heard that the jinn and Nahari are not endgame. I don't know if that's true or not. That is why we're giving City of Brass another try. Look at this sweater. My sister made it. She's been working on it for like 10 years. She's so talented. Anyway, I read about an hour's worth of The City of Brass, and so we're really just getting into the introduction of how Nahari summoned the jinn. Like, he just popped up and is like, who summoned me? So things are, you know, just getting started. I am listening to this at 1.5 speed. My preferred speed is 2x speed, but I decided to slow down for this particular book. Since I am trying to give this book a second chance, I'm gonna try to savor it a little bit more. Snack time. Most giant thing of hummus ever. I will eat this in about a week to 10 days. This is my view. I've got 2 dogs, 3 dogs, all on my lap, and I'm watching a streamer for a little bit. then I'm gonna get back to reading. Shout out Lil Simsy. Hello everyone. It is the next day and I just want to do a quick check-in, and I managed to read 35% of The City of Brass last night. I'm trying to be open-minded with the slow relationship developing between Nahari and Dara. However, I am noticing like some of the reason for my initial 2-star review is that Nahari is traveling between Cairo to the magical city of Daevabad, and most of that time spent is just having conversations with Dara and info dumping, world building stuff. So in my opinion, there's possibly a better way to convey that type of information other than just having a campfire conversation over and over and over again to explain all this world building that we're getting. And those campfire conversations could be better spent actually showing little moments and the bond between Dara and Nahari that's forming. We do get information that they are talking about personal topics, but it's happening after the fact. Like, oh yeah, Dara is asking me about my family and my friends and my hobbies and my interests, but we don't actually see it on page. It happens off page. So I think if I were to root for the romance between the two, I think it would have been better established having those personal conversations at the same time, or you know, dedicating time specifically for those small moments and bonding experiences. And we can get the world building when she's in Daevabad, when she's in the magical city, and you know, things can be explained there possibly. I don't know, but I think that's just my personal preference at this stage in the book. I love Ali. I love his narration. It's one of my favorite tropes, which is the unprepared royal. He's thrust into a position of political power before he's ready, and so he's trying to grasp political straws and figure out what's going on, as well as establish his own power and figure out his responsibilities in this new role, which is one of my favorite tropes, which is the unprepared royal. And we're getting lots of politics, lots of information on his side of the story, which I'm also just really enjoying. Can you see it? It's so nice. I'm just glad I don't have to drive today in this. I get to work from home today, which is a blessing. Tetra, you being a good girl? Hello, another work day done, another 30% of the book read last night, and I'm having a good time overall, but it's definitely giving me like 3-star vibes. I'm not head over heels yet. Even Ollie's points of view chapters are not totally gripping me. Like, I'm still enjoying it, but it's not like, gee, this is the best thing ever. I'm just enjoying it. So very kind of middling feelings at the 65% mark here. I do think it's funny that, in my opinion, Nahari and Ali have more chemistry in the 2 scenes that I've read between them thus far than Nahari and Dara did for the entire 50% of the book previously. And I just think they are suited for each other much more. Even when there's no romantic tension between them at the moment, I think their chemistry is just way better at this point in the book. Hello everyone, it is a few days later and I finally finished The City of Brass. My final rating is a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is pretty good. It is not a favorite, but it is indicative of a really good book, but maybe have some issues with it. And I think that seems pretty fair considering a few of my minor critiques that I have. So everything I've said thus far is still retains true. I really don't like Dara as a character. And in fact, as I was reading more, I was getting more and more frustrated with Nahari as a character as well. because we are told all the time that she is this amazing thief, she's sneaky, she's always plotting something, she's trying to get a score, but we never actually see any of that other than when we are first introduced to her character and she's swindling somebody. And I feel like swindling people for money and being a thief and, you know, trying to survive would well equip her to deal with the politics that are happening in Daevabad, but in fact she is woefully not only unprepared, but she has no interest in playing politics, and she just gets tossed around all the time and manipulated constantly. So you would think that a character that is that savvy would have a little bit more political forethought, or at the very least care that she is being manipulated. And also the fact that we are told she's so awesome and smart and such a great thief, but we don't actually see it. There's a lot of telling instead of showing in that scenario. And also the reason I'm in front of my young adult shelves is because I want to have a conversation about YA versus adult. This is classified as an adult fantasy. However, the characters are 18 and 20, which is right on the cusp of adult and young adult. And sometimes this book felt YA and sometimes this book felt adult, which typically I enjoy a bridge novel or a bridge book that's like kind of bridging the gap between those two age ranges. And even the youngest character, Ali, he's a teenager, he's thrust into power unexpectedly and unprepared, and it shows in some of the actions and his decisions that he's making throughout the book. I enjoyed that aspect, but I kind of wish this book in particular had chosen one or the other. Like, if you're gonna be a young adult, be a young adult and go all out that way and really focus on the romance and the tropes. Or if you're gonna be adult, go brutal, go harder, make the characters a little bit older. They can still be unprepared and naive, but be, you know, in their mid to early 20s or even late 20s, and you would basically have the same book, but I think the tone would be a better fit for the type of story this is. This felt like the stakes were fairly high, however, with the tone, we just didn't necessarily feel those stakes because it kept flip-flopping between this like kind of lighthearted tone and this more serious tone. I will say this ending is very explosive and actually brought up my rating from a 3 to a 3.5 star, almost a 4 star, because of the twist that happens right at the end, like literally in the epilogue. That was very exciting, and I had forgotten about that twist, so good on the author for that one. But I think overall, execution-wise, it wasn't one of my favorite books of all time. I think I will continue. I am intrigued about what is going to happen next with that twist, as well as where our characters leave off. So overall, I think this was a really interesting experiment, and I'm glad I gave this a second chance and was a little bit more open-minded about this book in particular, because I feel like it does have potential. For example, Jade City, the first book in the Greenbone saga, I also gave 3.5 stars, and it ended up being a favorite series of all time because of later installments. And I feel like this trilogy could do the same for me. But I just have a really good feeling that after revisiting this story and continuing on, this could be a really big winner for me personally. Thank you so much for sticking around for this vlog and this video. I appreciate you all so much. Have you read the Daevabad trilogy? Did you love it? What were your thoughts and feelings? I would love to know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye!